Welcome to the debate. We are confronted today with, I think, the defining philosophical question of the modern Golden State Warriors dynasty. How do you manage the final, precious years of a generational talent like Stephen Curry? I mean, at 36, Curry is still performing at an absolutely elite level, yet the team around him is, well, it's caught in an organizational purgatory, balancing long-term development with the immediate, overwhelming imperative to contend for a title, right now.
The pressure is undeniable, yeah, and the stakes could not be higher. We are talking about the final decisions that will define the legacy of this entire era and maybe the future of the franchise for the next decade.
Exactly. So the focus here, it isn't on marginal improvements, it's on decisive consolidation. The central question we really have to grapple with, based on the trade framework circulating, is this. Should the Warriors execute a calculated move to trade high-potential assets, specifically the 23-year-old Jonathan Kuminga, for an immediate, proven systematic fit in a player like Michael Porter Jr.? The move would prioritize, clarity over chaos. My position is that this consolidation is the only responsible course of action. It's dictated by Curry's ticking clock, and it demands that fit takes absolute precedence over future potential.
And I'm going to argue that while the urgency is of course real, trading Jonathan Kuminga as the centerpiece of a larger package, one that involves multiple young players and future assets, it represents an unnecessary and I think potentially catastrophic sacrifice of immense long-term upside. I just fundamentally question whether the incremental gain you get today outweighs the cost of giving up an off-the-charts athlete just as he's supposed to be entering his prime.
Well, the premise is pretty simple. The Warriors have absolutely no time to wait for Jonathan Kuminga's potential to fully materialize into consistent, championship-level production. I mean, every month lost waiting for that development is an unrecoverable chip off Stephen Curry's window. When we look at Kuminga's game, we see a powerful isolation score, a player who thrives on mid-range creation and overpowering defenders one-on-one. The evidence suggests this skill set is just fundamentally misaligned with the specific, intricate structure of the Golden State offense. We all know this team is a precision instrument, built entirely around Curry's gravity. It requires constant ball movement, complex cuts, and players who impact the game without needing the ball in their hands for long stretches. Kuminga is effective when he slows the game down. That is structurally anathema to maximizing Curry. The proposed Michael Porter Jr. framework, on the other hand,
Acquiring a 6'10" player with legitimate high-volume three-point range represents optimal complementary geometry. Porter Jr. already demonstrated this capability alongside another generational creator, Nikola Jokic. He mastered off-ball movement, spacing, transition finishing. He provides massive value without ever needing a play called for him, making him the definitive ideal piece to slot directly into the rotation today. Okay, that argument hinges entirely on the idea that Kuminga is inherently incompatible and MPJ is some sort of low-risk savior. I acknowledge Curry's age, but let's look at what we are potentially sacrificing here. Kuminga possesses physical tools that are the envy of the entire league. We're talking about a 23-year-old wing who in flashes demonstrates the ability to attack the rim with an explosiveness you just can't teach. The primary issue isn't talent, it's consistency. And to give up on that level of upside now suggests an organizational impatience that fails to account for the typical developmental curve of players with these immense raw athletic gifts. Furthermore, we have to scrutinize the actual cost. We are not just trading Kuminga for MPJ. The reported framework suggests a complex consolidation, maybe a three-team deal, shipping out Kuminga plus Moses Moody, who is a competent depth guard, Buddy Hield, and a protected 2028 first-round pick.
So that's 4 significant assets, 3 young players, and a future pick for one player whose primary attribute is floor spacing. And while this move certainly improves the team, I am not convinced that mortgaging that many future assets justifies an incremental gain that, let's be honest, still leaves them short of being prohibitive title favorites.
Let's hone in on that core incompatibility, though, because the minute distribution data, it speaks volumes. You mentioned consistency.
But the reason Kuminga lacks consistency in this system is because his decision-making process inherently conflicts with the offense's required speed and rhythm. We see Steve Kerr managing rotations based on winning, and time and again, when the margin for error shrinks in crunch time, Kuminga's minutes are reduced. This isn't just some managerial preference, it's a strategic necessity. When Curry is running off screens, you need instantaneous decisions from your surrounding players. Either shoot, drive, or pass the advantage along. Kuminga tends to catch the ball, survey, and then initiate an isolation move. That stoppage just kills the flow. The system requires self-sacrifice and fluidity, something MPJ has proven he can deliver. Kuminga is playing an entirely different style of basketball, and there simply isn't time left to mold that powerful square peg into a round hole.
I see why you emphasize the systemic friction. The minute fluctuation certainly supports the idea that his game disrupts the established offensive identity. But I would frame the issue differently. Is this truly an irreconcilable systemic incompatibility, or is it simply a failure of organizational persistence? I mean, every elite explosive wing requires time to learn the nuances of off-ball play. Even a player like Jaylen Brown had a massive learning curve. The Warriors seem to be opting to divest from maximizing an athletic specimen because his game doesn't naturally complement the system, rather than investing the necessary coaching capital to adapt him. In a playoff environment where size, athleticism, and the ability to attack mismatches are paramount, sacrificing a player who has shown he can do exactly that, well, it just feels short-sighted. You can teach fit, but you cannot teach Kuminga's vertical athleticism.
Sure, but you can't teach size or elite shooting either, and that's what MPJ provides instantly. Porter brings size on the wing, 6'10", that the Warriors desperately need for rebounding and perimeter defense against bigger teams. His ability to score without demanding plays be run for him is the definition of complementary offense. And let's not forget the auxiliary piece the trade reporting mentions, Haywood Highsmith. He provides crucial defensive versatility and that connector skill set that Golden State consistently needs in the playoffs. So this isn't just a two-player swap. It's strategically filling two organizational holes with complementary pieces whose skills, shooting, size, defensive acumen, age well. This is disciplined roster building.
That's a compelling point about the combined profile, but we can't ignore the inherent risks embedded in MPJ. We have to address the elephant in the room: his injury history, specifically the history of serious back surgeries. For a team that's already dealing with the age of its core, trading valuable future assets for a player with a $179 million contract, a contract that carries that level of long-term health risk, that's reckless, not disciplined. If you commit to a player until 2027 and his health fails, that contract becomes an immediate, crippling cap liability that absolutely decimates the flexibility you need for the post-Curry transition. The cost is not just Kuminga. The cost is committing future cap space to a player with a known serious fragility.
I see why you raise the injury concern. It is the single largest risk factor. But I'd frame it differently. The contract is large, yes, but the Warriors are in the business of winning championships now, and the reward of immediate fit and production outweighs that financial risk. Since his last surgery, MPJ has played nearly 200 regular season games. He's demonstrated durability over the last 2 seasons, and his game, being heavily reliant on spot-up shooting, actually puts less stress on his body than Kuminga's drive-heavy physical style of play. If we look at the calculus, the Warriors are betting on a calculated risk for immediate optimization, acknowledging that time is their most scarce resource. We can't let a fear of a future medical setback paralyze our ability to maximize the present.
I'm just not convinced that a history of 2 major back surgeries is merely